Hi guys, my name is Richard and welcome back to the RQ studio. Now today in this video, we'll be covering the most commonly used SQL commands, including DDL for creating tables and DML for inserting, updating and deleting data. So for those of us that are new to this, DDL stands for Data Definition Languages, and these are used for creating databases and tables, whereas DML focuses on the manipulation of the data that exists within the database. And so we'll dive right into it. I must add that this video is actually the first in a series of SQL tutorials where I will be teaching SQL from basics all the way to the advanced level. This series is designed for beginners who are just starting out, as well as intermediate users who want to sharpen their SQL skills and move towards an expert level. So if you're interested in learning SQL properly and building a strong foundation and growing your confidence step by step, make sure you stay tuned for the next videos in this series. So let's dive right in. Okay, so the first step is to create a database. Now, I already have a database created, and so we are going to call out the database that we have created, making use of the use function in SQL. So my database, as you can see from the left-hand side, is DummyDB. So I'm going to type use DummyDB. Now, note that once I started typing, the text DummyDB was suggested, it popped up. So that's a feature of SQL Server, and depending on the database you are using, you may get suggestions. If not, you would have to write the entire SQL script. So I'm using Microsoft SQL Server, so let's keep moving. So I'm going to click on use DB and then click on execute or run. I like to give comments for every SQL script. It allows me to structure my SQL scripts well, and also allows for easy understanding of the scripts I've written for later. The text in green, hyphen, creating a table, serves as notes. They are not actual scripts, they are just notes. And everything else is going to be an SQL script. Create table. And we are going to name the table micro schools. Micro_schools. So once you start the SQL script by writing create table, you input the table name, that's micro schools, and then you input the columns you want to exist in that table and also the data types for each column. So the first table I'm creating, the first column I would like to create is going to be called first name, and the data type is going to be text. In SQL Server, that's nvarchar, and the number of characters I'm assuming will be the maximum I'll use in that column is going to be 50 characters, so hence the 50 in the between the brackets. I'm going to put a comma there and then move to the next line. The next column is last name, also text or nvarchar, 50. Now my age, I'm going to create an age column and I want it to be number. And so the data type for the age column is going to be int. And then finally, a class column, also going to be text. So I'm going to end by closing the brackets. So note that we started by having a bracket open after we typed in the table name, and then we also have to have a bracket that closes out at the bottom. So now I'm going to highlight the entire script and run it. So in SQL, you have to highlight the scripts and run them, or you can run all scripts on the page. We want to preview what we have done, so let's look at the quick preview. So my next script is going to be for previewing tables. Select all from micro school. I'm going to highlight that, click execute, and there you have it. I've created a table that has 4 columns. first name, last name, age, and class. So that is there. However, we don't have any data in the table. So that's going to be our next step. We are going to be inputting data into this table. This is going to, or my note is going to be insert table. And then I'm going to use the insert into SQL function. So I'll type insert into micro school. That's the name of our created table. And I have to state the columns that I want to insert into. So in the brackets, I'm going to state first name, last name, age, and class as the columns that I want to insert into. Values, meaning that the exact item I want to insert into these columns fall under values. So for the first name, I want to put the name Kwame there. For last name, I want to put Zanke, age 21, and class, let's say A1. And I like to pause here and just note that anytime you are inputting text data, it has to fall within the inverted commas. So that's how come they are in red. Anything that's text or anything that falls within inverted commas is seen as red in SQL Server. So first name column is in red, last name is in red, age is a number column. So number column you do not put in inverted commas, and then finally class is also a text column. So it's going to be inverted commas. You close your bracket. And now we can run this script. And one row has been affected. Great. So we are going to preview the table. And from our preview, we can see that one row has been added to the table. Row 1. Great. Now, you can choose to insert more than one record at a time. And I'm just going to demonstrate that. Insert into micro schools values. So I'm going to enter these 3 rows into the table. So I'll just highlight the text and execute. And you can see from the message 3 rows have been affected. So in order to see our output, we will just preview the table. And now we have 4 rows. So note that on the far left hand side, numbers appear beside the columns. These are like indexes just to let you know the number of rows within the table. Also on the far bottom right hand corner, you can see 4 rows at the bottom. And that's just to show you the total number of rows that are available in the table. So keep your eyes focused on the far right corner to be able to determine the count of rows within any table that you create. Our next step would be to update a table. And so with the records that we have inputted into this table, we're going to take one and we're going to update the records. So update table. And I'm going to change the last name of Jackson Hardy. And I'm going to change the name from Hardy to Love. So the SQL script for that is update micro school, set last name as set last name equal to Love, where first name equals Jackson. So this is an update statement that has a condition. So the where clause serves as a condition. I'm going to execute that. And we realize that Jackson's last name has been changed from Hardy to Love. Great. So we have successfully updated the table. Now, I'd like to add that I'll be creating more videos on select statements and how to query data, so watch out for that. In those videos, we'll dive into there's so many different conditions that exist in SQL. So Watch out for my next video. And finally, let's move on to deleting a table. So I identified that I have 2 rows. So you saw me run the script, and so I intentionally created a duplicate, right? And the duplicate was Kwame Zanke, right? So we now have 5 rows instead of 4. And now I want to delete rows within the table. So you can delete a single row or more than one. So I want to delete the record Kwame Zanke completely from the table. So I'm going to type delete from micro school and then add a condition. So the condition, the where clause is what is used to determine conditions. So where last name is equals to, don't forget your inverted commas, Zanke, highlight and execute, and then preview. Great. So we realize that Zanke, or the 5th row, is no longer existing in the table. Therefore, we have successfully deleted the record from the table. So that's all for this video. So before we go, I'd just like to add how to delete a table. We started this video with how to create a table, so I'm just going to end it this way. So I'll just enter my comment and then write the query. So the query is going to be drop table, and then you add the table name. In this instance is micro school, highlight and then execute. Now once you execute this query, the table you created has been deleted from the database. So even though you may see the name of the table in the database on the left hand, after restarting or refreshing, it won't be there. And if you run the select all for that table in particular, you're going to get an error. Watch out for my next video, where I'll be taking us through select statements and how to query data. Cheers, guys.